Hey, friends, it's the Matt Murphy Radio Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is, I just mentioned it, it's Matt Murphy, and I'm here for the next 3 hours, whether you like it or not. It's 12:05, and thank you for your time and consideration today. Whatever time you're able to give us, we're certainly appreciative of that. It is Thursday. It is the middle of the month, February the 15th. Payday for some of you, perhaps. 2024. This is Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and it is our episode 512 of the proceedings today. Glad you've decided to join us. So let's get the pleasantries out of the way and get things lumbering under its own weight, right? So we have many different platforms for you to listen, and I encourage you to carry us wherever you go. You obviously can listen on 99.7 FM on the radio dial. You can also find us on a streaming application of your choosing, whether it's, there's a lot of them out there. So whatever you use, we appreciate you. Maybe you go to iTunes, maybe you go to TuneIn, maybe you go to iHeart, whatever it is. We thank you. And you can carry us there. You can also download our app at Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Then there's the television side of things on Supertalk TV. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Hello there. Glad to have you with us. Thank you for your participation in the show. You can find us over there and see my ugly mug and find out why I'm on the radio. And you can see the title of the proceedings. Bell K chooses not to participate on the television side of things based on the numerous warrants that are out against him. However, he does title the episodes, and episode 512 is currently entitled
Matt Murphy, answer his question or resign.
Libertarian Lunch, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So, yeah. We had a great conversation with Mark Green. It did not start off well. It did not start off well because I asked a question about the biggest news story of the day yesterday afternoon, and Mark seemed a little upset that I had the audacity to ask the question. And I became a little upset that he was so upset, seemingly at me, for asking a question that seemed to be a pretty obvious one to lead off the interview. Allow me to explain. So yesterday we had Congressman Mark Green on the show, and this is less than 2 hours before he made an announcement to the 7th Congressional District, the rest of Tennessee, and the rest of the United States of America that he would no longer be a candidate for re-election to his post as 7th Congressional District Representative, which is obviously his choice. And I have the announcement, and I'll read it for you in a moment. So yesterday, I asked him about Mike Turner, who is the head of the Intelligence Committee, and his pronouncement that there was a very real and tangible national security threat that existed that the rest of America needed to know about. Now, when I asked the question, I was under the assumption that Mike Turner was telling the truth when he said that he had already opened up this information to every other member of Congress that wanted to see it. And then it turns out later on in the conversation, Congressman Green noted that he had not yet seen the information. But it was pretty obvious that he was upset about all of this. And at first, I thought he was upset at me. And so there was a little bit of tension going on. And for those who heard it, you heard the tension. We repaired that, and we've not spoken, but we have texted back and forth, and I've told him it was not my intention to press you on classified matters. It was my intention to ask you a question about the biggest news item coming out of Washington, D.C. yesterday. And we're all well and good, and it's all good. And I congratulated him on his service as a congressman, and I wished him well in his future endeavors. And he said that he has come to the conclusion, as he put in his press release, he said it to me personally, that he does not believe the fight is in Washington. He believes now that the fight is with Washington.
All I know is you cost us another good one.
That's what I'm told. So yesterday afternoon, I'm fielding questions about whether or not I feel like my interview had something. No, of course it didn't. Let's all stop. Let's stop all of that.
Just take responsibility.
I mean, I can if you want me to. I mean, depending on your point of view on the whole matter. Larry number 2 says, no, Panda Boy. You got pushy and miffed because you were a jerk. Okay, Larry, I accept your assessment of the situation. Thank you very much for your consideration. Thank you for listening to the radio show, and I appreciate whatever time you're able to give us over the course of the afternoon. Brian said, if I call in and talk to Matt, can I retire too? Yeah, you can. I mean, I can insure it.
No, you don't. It's not that you can retire. It's that you must. Matt requires it.
I watched a 99.7 on the YouTube yesterday. Matt reminds me of Wolfman Jack, and Mac Murray reminds me of the stoner dude on Fast Times at Ridgemont.
So he's Spicoli and you're
Wolfman Jack.
I could see that a little bit with you, but only because of the beer.
I mean, you know, I'll take whatever I can get. I don't mind. So several of you are saying, 3143 says, well, he got his money from Washington in the stock trading. Maybe he can be a stockbroker. He has amazing returns. You know, the last time that Congressman Mark Green was on the show, we asked him about that too. And he didn't seem annoyed at the question at all. He says that he has a very good investment manager that lives in Clarksville. I asked him who it was. He said that he would not tell me because he did not want liberals descending on this person and trying to destroy his individual. But I think if I'm remembering correctly, he noted that he would be happy to offer such suggestions individually. But one way or the other, we no longer have Mark Green. U.S. Representative Mark Green announces his retirement from Congress. Obviously, this is not effective immediately. He'll serve out his term just one day after leading the House in the historic vote to impeach Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Green was serving as chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee, said that he's ready to return home. I'll just read from his press release. In the past few months, in reading the writings of our framers, I was reminded of their intent for representatives to be citizen legislators, to serve for a season and then return home. Our country and our Congress is broken beyond most means of repair. I've come to realize our fight is not here within Washington. Our fight is with Washington. As I have done my entire life, I will continue serving this country, but in a new capacity. Green said he was thankful to his wife. Is that Carney, I guess? And his children for supporting him while he served in Congress. During my time in the Army, they sacrificed to dad and husband with multiple deployments. And as I have served here in Congress, they have supported me as I've been away most weeks. Thanking his constituents in Tennessee's 7th Congressional District, saying it was an unbelievable honor to represent them. And we thank him in the 7th Congressional District. We thank Dr. Green for all of his service to his country, and I have no doubt that that service will continue. So the suggestion has been made, and I would be among those that would be supportive of this idea. The suggestion has been made that Mark Green is looking toward the governorship of the state of Tennessee down the road. Obviously, Bill Lee is term limited and will not be able to run again, and that's in a couple of years, but some are suggesting that he's going to come home, take care of personal affairs, and then potentially run for governor in the next election cycle, which would be, 2027, I guess that would be.
Is that when? That's what I was wondering, is when Lee's term would end.
I think it's 2027, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that is correct. Ron writes in and says, Matt Murphy, political assassin. That is not true. That is not true. I had nothing to do with this. And then 8335 said, it's obvious Mark Green was upset about something else before he ever started speaking with you. If I were to go out on a limb, I would say he had a couple of things catching up with him, forcing him to retire from Congress unwillingly, something that he doesn't want made public. I don't know that that's the case or not. I don't know what's going on with Mark Green personally. I can only take him at face value. He seems to be a trustworthy sort, and he has been a worthy representative of the 7th Congressional District. I'll say that. He seems like a really good guy. He's also a more difficult guy to know. I've gotten to know several of the congressmen that we talk to on a regular basis. And Mark has been a little more difficult to get to know, but he's a busy guy. I don't suggest that you need alliances or friendships if you're in my role or his role. I noted that as soon as he came on the air yesterday, he seemed annoyed.
It's so much easier to understand and believe the potential frustration he was dealing with as a representative than it is to have to wonder what was going on behind the scenes. I think that frustration is probably enough to make you just want to throw your hands up.
At the time, so now that you layer on top of our conversation the fact that he knew that he was retiring yesterday, at the time that it happened and in the aftermath of our interview, I believed, I would tell you, and I still think that this has a lot to do with it. I think Mark Green was annoyed at Mike Turner. I don't think Mark Green was annoyed at me. I don't think Congressman Green necessarily intended to come after me, but that's what he did in his answer. And I don't understand. And I even couched the question in these terms. For those that missed it, you can find it on the podcast, and I won't belabor the interview. But I asked him an obvious question. There was a breaking news story about a, quote, national security threat as described by the chairman of the Intelligence Committee in the House of Representatives, Mike Turner. He said that there was a national security threat that the American people needed to know about, so much so that he was calling on the President of the United States to divulge this information. Well, now I'm being told by credible sources within the Beltway of Washington, D.C., that a lot of this was sound and fury signifying nothing, that Mike Turner wants Ukrainian funding, and one of the ways that he wants to try to get Ukrainian funding is to scare the hell out of average Americans so that they think that Russia's going to rain nukes down from space if we don't do something about it.
It was also kind of telling that, as we discovered later in your conversation with him, he was getting defensive about giving you answers that he didn't even have yet.
Right. He was like, well, I'm not going to divulge classified information on the radio show. And then later on, he says, well, I haven't even seen it yet. I don't go into the skiff until 5 o'clock this afternoon. Well, then you couldn't divulge classified information that I'm asking you about if you wanted to. So I don't understand why we're getting off on the wrong foot here. But I'll give back as good as I get. And I'm not none of us, and this is what fascinates me. I know that I'm a jerk. I get that. I know that I can be an ass. I get that. But I am on your side. I promise you. Whether you think I am or not, I promise you I'm on your side. And I'm not about to have an elected servant act as if they are our superior when they're not. We are contemporaries, and I'm talking about all of you. He works for you. Mark Green or any other public servant works for you. I act as a voice for you, or at least I try to, and I know that I don't do my job from time to time, and I know I get ahead of my skis from time to time. I am fully aware of my failures as a talk show host. But I'm also fully aware that the way he came after me as if to say, how dare you? Ask the question, what? What do you mean, how dare me? How dare you? How dare Washington, D.C. keep all of these secrets from the American people when they ought not keep them? How dare Washington, D.C., in their bureaucratic nonsense, they hide their actions behind classified documentation, behind that stamp that says top secret. And I know it to be true. Now, I don't know whether or not the information that Mark Green was referring to is legitimately top secret and should be legitimately classified or not. And I am fully aware that there are things that the American people don't need to know. But those things that we don't need to know pale in comparison to the mountain of evidence, the mountain of material that Washington, D.C. has overclassified for years as a way of hiding it from the American people. So if it seemed that my dander went up, it's because my dander went up. Now, two individuals can have mild disagreements about a subject and remain friends, and I believe that's what we've done with Congressman Mark Green. As I had a conversation with him, I mentioned it at the open, we had a conversation via text last evening, and everything's all well and good. And I expressed that I had no desire to force him in any sort of way, not that I could, to divulge classified information. One of the ways that Washington, D.C. gets away with what Washington, D.C. gets away with is this nonsense about classifying just about everything. All right, so that's that, and we'll put that on the side burner for just a couple of minutes. I am curious about what you think is next for the 7th Congressional District. What is next? What's next for Mark Green? Most pundits believe that he might be setting up a gubernatorial run. That remains to be seen, and we'll wait on that. What happens with the 7th Congressional District also remains to be seen, and I'm curious who you would throw up as a candidate if you had the ability to do so. It's 1220 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 7057 says boring. Okay. Well, you know what to do. There's a way to change the subject. All you have to do is tell me what to talk about, 7057. I'm happy to receive. I'm at your service. 615-737-9986. It's the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk. Hello, gentlemen. Are you feeling sluggish, run down? Do you not have the energy levels that you at one time had? Well, there's an answer for you, and it comes in the form of Tennessee Men's Clinic. There's nothing to deny. There's nothing to put off. It is just a reality that as we age, certain things happen to our body. We lose our energy levels that we once had in our 20s and our 30s, and maybe even in your 40s. And sometimes that manifests itself in the bedroom, sometimes in the gym, sometimes, doing work in the backyard, whatever it might be. If you're feeling tired and grumpy, if you're feeling low energy, it's time to get with the Tennessee Men's Clinic and allow their urologists and clinicians to go over you from tip to stern and see what's going on inside your body. They have answers, friends. They have solutions to whatever issues you're bringing to the table with regard to energy levels in whatever way that manifests itself in your life. So, guys, it's time to feel amazing again. It's time to hit your goals again. The Tennessee Men's Clinic specialize in seeing guys who think they're out of luck regain hope, that they can be successful with energy levels in life again. Go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. That's TennesseeMen'sClinic.com or 615-208-9090. 208-9090. Call today for the Tennessee Men's Clinic. Your foundation is everything when it comes to your home, and if you're not sure about where you are with regard to your foundation, it's time you called USS. They're the foundation specialist in our community. Throughout Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, and Northern Alabama, USS, they've been providing quality assistance to people just like you when it comes to foundation repair, waterproofing, and the poly-level lift system within your home. Concrete leveling is a big deal, too. I don't talk about it enough, but with concrete leveling, if you have settling sidewalks or driveways, if you have sinking slabs or patio steps, if your porch steps are tilted, if your sidewalk or patio has shifted, there was a time when the only solution for that was to rip everything out and to start over. Not so much anymore. Now they have the USS Polylift system. It is less expensive than concrete replacement, and it is fascinating. I've watched this with my own eyeballs. I did this in Birmingham, Alabama, when I lived in my home in Birmingham. It is fascinating how they can lift with their incredible Polylift foam system and get your driveways leveled, your concrete leveled, and you don't have to worry about ripping that concrete out. Ask about it when you make the call that so many others have made to USS, United Structural Systems. Over 25,000 satisfied customers. 615-488-7855, 488-7855 for USS, United Structural Systems. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's 12:26. Glad to have you with us. 615-737-9986. If you'd like to be a part of the show, you may be a part of the show either via your telephone calls. Always good to turn a monologue into a dialogue. You could also be a part of the show by dialing us up on the Super Text line. That's up and running as we speak. 615-737-9986. Coming up in 10 minutes or thereabouts, we will welcome back to the show Brink Fiddler, who is owner of Defend Systems. We talk often about Defend Systems. They are a life safety and security consultation firm based right here in Middle Tennessee and a sponsor of the Matt Murphy Radio Show, and I say that in the interest of disclosure. But I have Brink on because of his expertise in dangerous and life-threatening situations. And we saw one of those play out in real time during the Kansas City Chiefs parade yesterday afternoon, in which one person is now dead, 22 injured, a lot of those injuries having to do with bullets, and a lot of questions and not a lot of answers as of yet. The police officers, the Kansas City police officers did a great job. There were a couple of individuals there in the crowd that did a fabulous job in making sure that the individuals responsible for the mayhem were apprehended. No charges have yet been filed regarding the mass shooting in Kansas City, Missouri, although police have detained multiple suspects. Kansas City Police Chief Stacey Graves held a press conference earlier today, updating the press on the ongoing investigation, announcing that prosecutors were still working on bringing charges. We've not charged them yet. It's under investigation. We have 24 hours until we file charges or release them, she said. She continued, we're working closely with the Jackson County Prosecutor's Office to present the most successful case for prosecution to their actions. Gunshots rang out during the Kansas City Chiefs victory parade around 2 o'clock local time. Kansas City, are they Central Time? I want to say that Kansas City's Central Time. So that would have been about right because we found out about it sometime in the midst of the 2 o'clock hour. It was like 2:20. It was we reported on it just after our interview with Mark Green, and that happened at 2:05 yesterday afternoon. Let's see. There was one woman killed. She has been identified as Lisa Lopez Galvin, a mother of two and a local disc jockey in Kansas City. 22 others have been injured. 11 children were wounded during the shooting, but are expected to recover as of Wednesday night. 9 of them shot. 2 others sustained injuries in the ensuing melee. As you might expect, it was incredibly chaotic in the aftermath of the parade that culminated in downtown Kansas City. Police are currently holding an unknown number of suspects, at least two of which are juveniles. It is believed, we've heard talk of a long gun, although I've not seen any confirmation on that, but it is believed that the damage was done by handguns. And so you have a lot of individuals coming out of the woodwork trying to glom on and politicize the issue of gun violence by saying we need to do this, we need to do that. They don't have all the facts. They don't have all the information in front of them. Of course they don't. Let's wait until we get information in front of us to suggest that we have answers about how to prevent something like this from happening. The reality is simple, that in a freedom-loving society, in a society that gives us the ability to freely associate with others without encumbrance from political leaders or law enforcement, then this has a possibility of happening. No politician wants to tell you that, but it's true. If we wanted to live in a country where there is no possibility of this happening, we could. We could. Do you want to live in that country? If we want to live in a nation where we can mitigate the possibility of gun violence to the point that it is astronomically small, maybe not zero, but small, we could. But that is not a freedom-based society. Freedom is more important. Freedom is more important. This is not going to appear on any political slogan, but it is true. All right, with that in mind, I want to put the door on our conversation with Mark yesterday, and we'll move forward. Shannon is next up in Bon Aqua. Hello, Shannon. How are you?
Hey, Matt. Thank you for taking my call.
Of course.
I really appreciate your interview that you had with him, and I do. I'm on your side. He's my congressman, but I appreciated all the hard questions you were giving him because those are the questions that I had for him. I've contacted my congressman on several issues I've had. I've got a construction business. I had an immigrant issue. I've contacted, I can't tell you how many times, and the only thing that I would get from his handlers or his office, they would laugh at me on certain serious questions that I had with this immigrant. I've called to tell him things like, why are you voting this way? Why are you voting this way? And one of my biggest concerns was that he is the second largest stockholder since he became in Congress. And so I back what you said 100%, and I just wanted to thank you for that. I like Mark Green. I think he's a great veteran, but I'm not sure what he's really have done for Bon Aqua.
Well, good call, Shannon. Thank you for making it, and it's a point well taken. I don't know, and I'm not here to correct you. You might be right. I know that he was the second most successful he was second most successful in terms of rate of return. I don't know that that equates to him being the second biggest stockholder in Congress. And I just don't want to be accused of misrepresenting the facts there. But I think the figures that you're referring to, out of the numbers of Congress people who have to divulge that information, Mark Green was number 2 in terms of rate of return, not in terms of total portfolio. I think that's right. It's 12:33, Super Talk 99.7, WTN. Often it is the case that I tell you my personal story when it comes to many of the endorsements that we talk about on the Matt Murphy Radio Show. Let me tell you this personal story about Dr. Stephen Poss and the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center. Dr. Poss and I have talked over the years. Obviously, you do that when he wants to relate new advancements in the technology that's available to him to help people like you with mild to moderate sleep apnea. And in the course of those conversations, he said, have you ever done a sleep test? And I said, no. He said, you should do one. And I said, yeah, I don't think I have sleep apnea. He goes, yeah, a lot of times people don't know. And I was like, well, I think I'm okay. And he goes, well, when you're ready. And I was ready. And so I said, Dr. Poss, I want to do it. Well, the results of my sleep test have come back, and I have mild sleep apnea. Now, I didn't know this, but Dr. Poss has related to me. He said, do you feel tired and sluggish during the morning time hours? Do you feel like you need a lot to get going? I said, yes. I feel like I need a lot of coffee, caffeine, and whatnot. He said, I don't think you're getting the sleep that you need. Your sleep study indicates that you're not getting the sleep that you need because you're waking up, you're losing your breath during the night. It's time to get you an appliance. And so we're moving forward with that. I am now not only a spokesperson for the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center, I'm also a client. And I love telling you about the successful story that is to come regarding my sleep. So if you know or if you don't, it's time to make contact with Dr. Stephen Poss. If you feel tired for any reason, if you feel sluggish, it could be a lack of sleep. And that lack of sleep could be due to sleep apnea. Let's find out together. drposs.com. That's drposs.com. Begin your journey as I have begun mine with Dr. Poss and the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and you. It's 12:39. Glad to have you along for the ride. 615-737-9986. We give those numbers often and as quickly as possible just to keep you on your toes. You can utilize them either for the super text line or for the telephone lines. A lot of you super texters are sending in your suggestions for who should or could replace the 7th Congressional District Representative, Congressman Mark Green, who announced in the aftermath of our interview. He did not announce it on our airwaves. I would have loved for him to, but he did not. But in the aftermath of our interview, I think it was his next official act after I interviewed him, he said that he was resigning his position, or at least he would not run for re-election during this next election cycle, that he would return to public life. Well, he didn't talk about public life. He just said he would return home, but I believe that the man has a service heart, and there is more public service down the road for him. In the meantime, we are currently watching testimony on the part of Nathan Wade, who is a special prosecutor assigned to the Donald Trump case by Fani Willis. He is being pressed on his finances, her finances, and their affair timeline. Currently, in court in Georgia, there will be a determination as to whether or not Fani Willis has the ability to continue as the prosecutor in this case. Obviously, she has no business being the prosecutor in this case, considering the malfeasance she engaged in with regard to selecting this individual as one of her special prosecutors and paying him tremendous amounts of money. So we're following that case for you as it plays out in Georgia, in Atlanta, as we speak. In the meantime, following this story out of Kansas City, what we know, police are currently holding an unknown number of suspects in custody, 2 of which are juveniles. Authorities are now saying the relationship between the suspects and the subjects involved is still under investigation, but there is no evidence or links to terrorism. To speak on this matter, we invite back to the show Brink Fiddler. He is owner of Defense Systems. He's an all-around good guy. He has almost 2 decades experience with the Metro Nashville Police Department and a lengthy amount of experience with regard to situations like this. And he joins us as he is on the road this afternoon. Brink, good to talk with you. How are you, sir?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm certain that you've seen the dynamics of this situation as it played out in Kansas City. We know what we know about that situation, but I was curious to get you on air with us, Brink, just to talk to us broadly about the dangers that exist in public gatherings like this and what we can do, what we should be aware of, what we maybe aren't aware of when these circumstances come up that make us better prepared in the event that, sadly, something like this might happen down the road.
Yeah, for sure. And just so you're clear, so you don't talk bad about them, you've got the whole team in the truck. So, Tracy,
Hi, Matt.
Tracy and Gloria, and a new addition to the team, Adam McIntyre.
Is that Menthol Mendenhall down there? Is that who I just heard?
That's right, Marmaduke.
Hey, Gloria.
Yeah.
Hi.
All right. So,
Yeah,
by the way, before I forget about it, Brink, while we're talking about staffing, have you filled your position yet, or should I still talk about that?
No, you can keep talking about it.
Okay.
That's a topic of discussion currently on this trip, actually. So
okay.
Yeah,
Well, there are new positions available at Defense Systems. Find out more at defensesystems.com. Defensesystems.com. Anyway, so what do you think? What comes to mind when I ask you for advice regarding a circumstance or a situation like this?
Same thing I say every time. It starts before the event, right? I mean, it's just like when we talked about that 4th of July parade shooting a few years ago. You know, all it goes back to is doing a few little things before you show up. You know, look at the parade route map, know where you're going to stand. Me personally, I'm going to find a close exit, and that's where I'm going to be. But I'm also going to look for something that could be considered cover or at least concealment, but ideally cover to be near, so that in the moment you don't have to start thinking about that. You don't have to start panicking. You don't have to worry about where's my closest exit, what do I do with my family. Do all that ahead of time and go enjoy the parade. But you know, it starts with a little bit of preparation. But you know, most people don't want to think about that. They just want to go celebrate their team, you know, go to the parade, do all the things. But you know, so many times we have seen over and over again that doing a little bit of preparing what's called your primitive brain ahead of time really pays off drastically. At the Vegas shooting that happened, there were a couple of security consulting type folks out there, what we do in the consulting world, and they had done that. They had looked at the Route 91 Harvest Festival map. They knew where their exits were. They knew, so when shots rang out, and everybody else panicked and dove or whatever they did, I mean, they went straight for what the plan was and got out of there just fine. So obviously you can't always control it, and it sounds like this was probably a couple of gangbangers, if I had to guess, shooting it out with each other, and in the process, you know, hit a bunch of bystanders. We don't know that for a fact yet, but that's what it sounds like. And there's not a lot you can do about that except prepare ahead of time.
You know, we've created this dynamic in American society, and I don't know what we can do to kind of pull back from it. That you mentioned the gangbangers or those bad guys with guns, they go into these situations armed. Good guys with guns have been almost trained or conditioned not to bring their guns with them in crowded areas. And I'm frustrated because that leaves us defenseless in the unlikely event, and we should note that it is still a very unlikely scenario in which something like this could happen. But when it happens, it happens. You and I talk about this all the time. Hope, one of the reasons I say hope is not a plan when I'm talking about defense systems is because it's not. I mean, so we've conditioned ourselves not. I mean, at least many people have, and I know that you're not among these many because I know how your mind works, Brink. I think I do. We've been conditioned not to present ourselves armed in these crowded circumstances, and I just don't think that's the way to go about it. I don't go about it that way. What's your response to that?
So, and it's really kind of a double-edged sword. Yes, you do know the way my brain works. I mean, I have a certain skill set that I'm still willing and able to deploy in a bad situation, and so if I don't have the tools to deploy that skill set, then that's problematic for me. However, that's not for everybody. Just because we have good law-abiding citizens with carry permits, that doesn't mean that they train enough or focus enough on being able to execute that particular kind of shot in a crowded environment. I mean, I say all the time, there are people I literally went to the police academy with that I don't want having a gunfight in my child's school because I've seen them shoot, right? So I think you got to it's your level of proficiency, your level of training, your level of comfort, especially as a civilian, because you're responsible for every round that comes out in that gun and where it goes and where its final resting place is. In the same breath, I would say, yeah, in most situations, yes, I would engage, but you also always have to be sure your target and what's beyond it. So the opportunity may not be there to engage, right? If there's wife and kids behind the suspect, I mean, right. your hands are tied until you change your position.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense. And, there are several on the super text line, and I've heard several comments on social media and whatnot that, this is leading us to change our behavior. It's leading family. I mean, this is an event that should be a good time for the people of Kansas City, a good time for anybody that wants to participate in the celebration of a Super Bowl victory by the Chiefs. And it is soiled by what seems to be, maybe gang-related activity. We don't know. It feels like the suspects were known to one another and there was some sort of domestic-based altercation. I don't know what the nature of that was. We'll find out. But there are people saying, well, we can't have good things anymore in American society. We can't gather as a people in American society. I just feel like that's the wrong direction to take. That there are other steps that we should take to make sure individually that we're prepared for any eventuality. Maybe that means concealed carry. Maybe it doesn't. But you bring up the excellent point that it's one thing to bring those tools necessary to protect yourself and to make sure that you feel safe and comfortable in that environment. It's another thing to train yourself to make sure that not only do you understand how to use, but you understand when to and when not to engage in any given circumstance.
That's right. Yeah, and I agree with you. I don't think the route is we can't have those things in America anymore. I think we need more people to step up like those guys did yesterday. And the one gentleman that tackled the dude that was running away. I mean, it's a mindset shift. I mean, you've been through our training. We talk about that. And if you remember specifically, we show that Panama City School Board shooting video where everybody in that video was freaking out except one lady. Her mindset was, oh, no, not today, right, and actually tried to do something about it. Obviously, she wasn't effective. But we have to have a mindset shift and take control of this stuff back from letting, we can't control what these crazy DAs do as far as bail reform and all the nonsense that's going on that's causing all the crime to skyrocket. We can't control that, but we can control how many of us step up and do something about it. I mean, imagine first thing I thought about yesterday was imagine a good either off-duty cop, squared away military guy, carry permit holder, being within 3 feet of one of those guys when that broke out, and just, for lack of a better term, just John Wick the guy. I mean, it'll put a stop to some of this, right? If people start to stand up and fight back, and I think that's where we are, and I think most of America realizes that. I'm afraid, and conservative and don't have our head in the sand of what's coming, right? Because of what's poured across this border into this country over the last 3 years. I'd love to be wrong, obviously, but I don't think I'm going to be. And so because of that, it's even more of a call for good people who will stand up and do what's right and press the fight back against these people.
What are your concerns? I mean, just away from your business model at Defense Systems, just me and you talking, Brink, are you as concerned as I am about what we don't know about the nature of the people that are coming across? I mean, forget the politicalization of this. Undocumented means we don't know who they are. Undocumented means we don't know what their intentions are. And it scares the hell out of me, and I reflected this in my conversation with Mark Green yesterday, and he got a little upset at me that, you can't explain to us how many possible terrorists are coming across the southern border at any given moment. And then when one of your colleagues screams national security threat, you don't expect us to kind of freak out about that, right?
Yeah. And obviously we kind of surmised what that's all about at this point.
Right.
But at the time, right, nobody knew that. But I think that's everybody's concern. I mean, if you don't have your head in the sand, right, and you step away from the politics of it, I mean, how many, fighting age males have come across the border from foreign countries, right? And not just South America, all over the place. And now our northern border, right? They're not coming here, some of them, but most from all these different countries where they have a decent life. They're not coming here seeking a better life. I mean, this is an infiltration. I mean, it's clear to me, and that's what I mean. Like again, I'd love to be wrong, but I don't think I'm going to be about what's coming. I mean, I think we're going to get hit, and probably multiple times in different ways. Because why else would they be coming here? Again, a few of them, sure, for a better life, but I think our enemies are taking advantage of the situation, and what's to come is what's to come. Again, all we can do as a society is do a little bit better to prepare for it and take ownership of our personal safety and the safety of your family, whether you're out or at home, either one. I mean, I think it comes with a sense of responsibility, especially if you have a family, to do just a few things to make yourself safer.
Real quick, while I've got you on the line, it occurs to me, the Lakewood shooting happened just a couple of days ago. You're so well-versed in training church groups. You train, obviously, through Defense Systems. You train anywhere that people gather, anywhere that there's groups of people that come together. Brink Fiddler can help you in that regard. Any thoughts on the Lakewood shooting? I mean, obviously, it was a wonderful thing to know that a couple of off-duty police officers were there, ready, willing, and able to neutralize that threat.
Yeah, and, I talk about this all the time. I mean, in crowded environments, and a lot of people don't, well, it depends, but a lot of people don't like this answer, but in a crowded environment like that, the only answer is somebody shooting back. You can't evacuate a massive sanctuary like that. It doesn't work. It's chaos. People get trampled. I mean, the only answer in crowded environments like church sanctuary, other houses of worship, gymnasiums, cafeterias, is somebody shooting back. And that's obviously completely evident by what we saw at the church shooting. And, obviously the narrative got changed real quick, and we can all surmise why. But, that it's a win for the good guys that are carrying guns in places. And obviously the more details that came out about the shooter, I mean, all of a sudden nobody in the media is interested anymore. But if that's not a testament to people fighting back and it ending stuff, I don't know what is. I mean, and we've seen it. That's not the first time we've seen that. We saw it at another church in Texas just a few years ago. So I'm not saying guns are for everybody, because they're certainly not. But good guys with guns, stop bad guys with guns. That's just the way it is.
Well spoken. Brink, thank you. We're thinking of you in this trying time when you're on the road with two women.
Hey, now.
At least you know them.
By the way, my comment is not reflective of any sort of sexism. My comment is reflective of the fact that I've met the two women in question. All right? I just want everybody to know that.
Best days of your life, Normandy. Best days of your life.
Next time I'll send them in the studio with you, and you can have them by yourself again.
Yeah, get them on in here. There's Brink Fiddler with Defense Systems. Thank you, Brink. Thank you, Gloria, and thank you to Tracy for spending some time with us. It's 12:54 on Super Talk.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. In Montana, Malmstrom Air Force Base has posted that the base has entered lockdown status due to what it called an active shooter alert on base. Officials at the base also asking people to shelter in place. Great Falls, Montana police also posting that announcing schools in the area should shelter in place. No other details are known, this story developing. The incident comes a day after the deadly shooting in Kansas City at the Chiefs' victory rally. Kansas City police now say an initial investigation shows a dispute between several people led to gunfire. Police say several people are in custody, including 2 juveniles. 1 woman was killed and nearly 24 others injured. 11 of those injured are minors. Kansas City Mayor Quentin Lucas.
Our condolences continue to go out to all those who have been impacted, including the decedent.
Police say several fire alarms were also recovered at the scene. A misconduct hearing continues in Atlanta involving the district attorney, Fani Willis, and her boyfriend, prosecutor Nathan Wade. She's the DA overseeing the Georgia racketeering case against former President Trump and co-defendants.
Attorney Nathan Wade insists that while he doesn't have receipts to prove it, he and DA Fani Willis roughly split their travel expenses.
She would pay for dinner. It would balance out.
Wade says Willis has also reimbursed him in cash. He testified their romantic relationship began in 2022 after Willis hired him. But Willis's one-time friend and former employee Robin Yurty said she saw evidence of the relationship before that.
Hugging, kissing.
Yurty said it started in late 2019. Stephen Portnoy, ABC News.
Former President Trump attended a hearing today in New York City for the criminal case involving hush money payments to Stormy Daniels, the judge setting the trial date for March 25th. FBI Director Christopher Wray in Germany today for the start of the Munich Security Conference. Global conflicts, including the Israel-Hamas war and Russia's attacks on Ukraine, will be on the agenda. You're listening to ABC News.
Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition, a brand new sponsor to the Matt Murphy Show, and I'm so pleased to have them. Members Nutrition believes in empowering individuals to take charge of their health through natural supplements, through natural and effective supplements that address common health concerns, and they're made right here in the good old USA, so you don't have to go out of country as a result. And right now, I want to focus on cleansing your body. Sadly, many of us have bloat. We feel gross, we feel sluggish, and you don't know why. Well, might I suggest to you that you have a lot of toxins in your body that need to be out of your body. Thank you to Youthful Cleanse. These toxins that build up in your body suppress your immunity. They suppress your ability to absorb naturally occurring nutrients. They suppress your ability to fight illness, from the air we breathe to the food we eat. If you're seeking reliable and effective solutions to support your digestive system, might I recommend going to membersnutrition.com. That's membersnutrition.com. Youthful Cleanse will detoxify. It will boost your digestive performance. It will support nutrient absorption. All of these things happening naturally, and every one of their supplements made right here in the good old USA. Membersnutrition.com for more information, and tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the website, membersnutrition.com. Here we are. Here we go. It is the Matt Murphy Radio Show. Hour number 2 starts right now. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Pleased you've decided to join us this afternoon. We have 2 more full hours to get to all of your questions, all of your thoughts, all of your concerns. You can get those in there. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, our super text line, and our phone lines up and running. 615-737-9986. 737 WWTN. It is time for our legislative roundup. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Bell K included. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. I don't know. I don't know what you're doing over there. He never pays attention to me. Everything I do for the approval of Bell.
What'd you say?
And that's what I get.
What did you say?
I'm talking to Scott Sapicki now. Hey, it's Representative Scott Sapicki of the Tennessee General Assembly joining us as he does once a week to give us a little bit of a legislative roundup. When that's what we need. That's what we need is a legislative. Get up, you know.
Rolling,
there you go.
Wait a minute. Are you saying he should be the House Whip?
No, we have a House Whip.
Yeah, I was going to say. Job's taken.
Yeah, who's that? Hold on. Don't tell me. Johnny Garrett. Johnny Garrett. Good guy.
I'm the guy who kicks open the saloon room doors and just stand there in the doorway.
There's too many sheriffs in this town.
And you hear the whistling.
How's it going, Sapicki?
Wonderful.
Yeah?
Fantastic week.
So when you come on, invariably, our first question is about education.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's an area of focus of yours, and the big question on everyone's lips, where is our education scholarship bill?
Everything goes smooth. We hope to have that released through the Speaker's office publicly next week.
Okay. And so maybe we can have the Speaker on to talk about it next week. Maybe we can have Sapicki on with him to give us some other details. What, if anything, can you tell us today? And I know that's a loaded thing. I know you know things you can't say. You don't want to get in front of the parade. I know that. I don't want another Mark Green situation here where Sapicki gets so mad at me. But I'm asking you to tell me the things you can't say.
I can tell you this. There's been a lot of thought go into this, and that's one of the things people want us to do is think through major legislation as we're trying to enact it. We have reached out to school systems across the state. We've talked to teachers. We've talked to administrators on things that they believe are hindering their ability to teach kids in public school. We have looked at the independence and the nuances and the freedoms that are in our private schools and have found some good things we can look at to incorporate into our public schools to possibly create some time to teach our kids in our public schools more, give them more teaching time in the classroom, to the point, Matt, that we might be able to, with what we're proposing, pick up an additional 50 to 60 hours of teaching time during the year for a teacher, which could be the difference in getting a kid across that finish line or not.
So I hear this a lot, and I want to try to cut through it because on one side, we'll hear that the kids are focusing too much on testing and not on learning.
Correct.
And then on the other side of that, people will say, well, how do we know if they're learning properly if we're not testing?
True.
So it feels like, and, just from one dunderhead on the radio's perspective, but it feels like there's too many cooks in the kitchen, right? In other words, there's a lot of people coming up with different ways to assess the learning process, and they all want to do that through testing. And eventually the kids are left taking 28 different tests in a given span of time, which takes them away from what they're supposed to be doing, in which that's learning.
Yeah, you want to test to verify their learning. But if you continue to test in shorter time periods, I'm confirming that they don't know. You got to give them time to learn so that then you can test them and the kids can show you what they're able to retain and learn about and put on a test for us. One of the things that we are really focusing in on this bill, and I'm going to call it an education freedom bill because it's going to affect public schools as much as it does school choice, to enable our teachers to take the standards we have and spend the time they need to teach our kids in public schools, and then have a test to evaluate the success of that time. But you have to give time between the tests for the kids to learn the material. And right now, I can tell you right now, in our middle schools, and every teacher in the state who listens is going to start shaking their head, yes, our kids take about 15 to 16 tests a year in middle school.
Now, when I went to school, help me out here, Scott.
Yes.
Because when I went to school, the classroom had tests, right? We had, is that what we're talking about? Are we talking about?
On top of those tests, on top of the federal, the state, and the local mandated
We're talking
tests.
about these standardized, mandated tests.
It's a test to prepare you to take a test that prepares you to take a bigger test that prepares you to take a final test. Instead of saying, okay, let's teach them like we did when we went to school, right? I was on the quarter system. At the end of every quarter, you had a test.
Right.
So you taught for 2.5 months. And then you took a test.
Sure.
And then you taught for another 2.5 months and took a test.
Every once in a while, get a pop quiz.
Okay, so
Remember
now,
those? Yeah.
Now they get to school, we test them. 2 weeks later, we evaluate them. Another 2 weeks later, they take a benchmark. Another 2 weeks later, they're taking another test. They're taking 4 or 5 tests in the quarters.
Right. And the justification has become, and I'm not doubting the sincerity of people behind these types of things, but the idea being, well, we need to have these benchmark tests because by the time 9 weeks is over or whatever it might be, it's way too late. You have to start over again. So you need a benchmark every so often. But in actuality, what that does is prevent learning.
Isn't that what we pay our teachers to do, to evaluate their students and keep them on track? That's what we pay them to do, right?
We would think, yes.
You have a classroom of 30 kids, and your job is to teach them every day. And trust me, teachers know their kids very well. They know who's struggling, who's not, because they'll adjust them in the class, right? The kids that are struggling, they'll pull up to the front of the class.
I will now ask questions that you may or may not be able to answer, but these are the of all of the questions I get, these are the ones that come to mind that I get asked most.
Fair enough.
Do you expect, from the scholarship perspective, do you expect it to be needs-based this year?
Yes.
Okay. Number 2, I get asked this quite a bit. What do you expect that the regulatory structure will look like in terms of what private schools I can take my kids to? In other words, if I am in a system that's not right for my child, there has to be some structure in place to say, well, this is a school that's approved by the state with regard to the scholarship money.
Yes.
How does that work?
So there's already things in place in Tennessee code that establishes accreditation of the school. So we could put something in there hypothetically that says, in able to qualify for this for this scholarship, you have to be in an accredited school by the State Board of Education. That prevents the Matt Murphy School of Education from popping up.
Just to grab money.
Right. Normally, you have to get your accreditation, you have to have a track record for 3 years in Tennessee. And then the state board evaluates your track record and says, yes, you are performing at a high level. Here's your accreditation.
So these are things that we're already doing for private schools that we can use to apply to the scholarship.
Right.
Fund.
We can learn. And that's why it's taken so long, Matt, is because we've studied other states and the pitfalls they've had in this. So we're gonna write a bill that eliminates those pitfalls. But the one thing that most people have complained about, especially on the public school side, is why don't we make the private schools do the things we have to? Well, in general, and I'm speaking in general here, and sometimes you get in trouble doing that, but most people in the state of Tennessee would probably agree with us that the academic outcomes in our private schools are better than our academic outcomes in our public schools. So why don't we figure out what makes the private schools so good and let the public schools incorporate those?
Is there anything, another question that I have gotten based on our conversations that we've had these many weeks about the possibilities, and we, as you just did, talk a lot in hypotheticals because we've not seen specific language. You've probably seen more than anybody, but I know you can't say what you can't say. The private schools currently have an application process. Nothing about that will change. Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's already in code. It's already in state code.
Right. I mean, the point being is that nothing about how a child would get into a private educational setting is going to change, except this is designed to try to eliminate the encumbrance of money.
Financial problems.
Financial need.
Right.
In order to motivate the parent to get their kid into a better educational setting.
To create the better opportunity.
Does anything about this include public-to-public movement?
That's already in code.
So I can already do that?
You sure can. If you live in Murray County and you want to go to a Williamson County school, and under the new TISA funding formula, a Williamson County school accepts you, that TISA funding formula would follow you to the new Williamson County school. Williamson County is allowed to charge you a fee because you're out of district. And normally what that fee is, it's on average what the property tax collected for that area is that goes to the school. I think in Williamson County they charge like $2,200 if you're out of district. That's on average what people pay in property taxes that goes to the school system, on average.
Is that countered against what you would normally pay in your local community, or is that on top of it? In other words, I don't get a credit for not using Murray County schools at that point, do I?
No, you don't. No.
All right, so that's just money on top. That's the cost of transferring.
That's correct.
Makes sense. All right, any more of your questions, you may ask them on the super text line. For example, are the scholarships going to be merit-based? Will previous academic or behavioral history factor in? Not everyone is cut out for private school. That question from 8210.
Well, I'm sure the academic admissions processes for these private schools would not be altered because they're private schools. And so, you'd fill out an application, and if it's need-based, you'd put your income levels on there. And then those schools would make the choice of, because I'm sure if they have 5 spots and they get 50 applications, they got to figure out who to take.
Is there a concern on your part? This is just me and you talking here. Is there
me and you talking and the rest of Tennessee and wherever you go? Me and you talking.
Is there a concern for you? Because I get some of this and I kind of understand the concerns, right? So if I'm a parent and I'm currently in public school, and the thing that's preventing me from making different decisions about my child's schooling is financial based. Well, this takes that away and gives me the opportunity to make those decisions. I'm already involved enough to take the initiative to do that. So you're taking involved parents out of an already failing system. And you're leaving behind those parents that are least involved. Are you concerned at all that those systems are going to suffer as a result of parents and their kids who are most invested leaving those systems?
No, not at all. If you look at the data out of Florida, when this school choice went into play, the amount of parent-teacher involvement in those public schools skyrocketed, because now those public schools realized that in able to keep from losing students, right, I have to compete. I have to engage my parents. One of the biggest things that public schools say is missing in our public schools right now is the engagement of the parents with the teachers. What we saw in Florida was that escalated to a point where now you have a PTO meeting where there's 300 or 400 parents there talking about how can we make this school better.
2862 wants to know, what about special needs?
They would qualify.
Right. I mean, just based on the ability for the private educational system to handle the needs of the special.
Yeah, if you look at the governor's
Needs
bill,
students.
it's economically disadvantaged, learning disabilities, and then poverty level. So students that have intellectual challenges, they would still qualify for this. And there's plenty of really good schools that would take a child like that. Absolutely.
Well, and several people are talking about behavioral situations.
Let me back up real quick, too. We already have kids that have a individual developmental educational plan, an ID. I can't remember the acronym for it is, but we already let them go to private situations out of public schools right now. That's already in state law, so that's nothing new there.
And several are commenting on behavioral situations, and one of the biggest differences between private education and public education, and I think these comparisons are justified because we are giving parents more ability to shift between one to the other, is the ability for the private educational system to reject kids based on behavioral issues, and how the public education system handles that's quite different because, I mean, only in the most egregious of circumstances do you see a total and complete rejection of the student based on behavioral issues.
Well, on the behavioral issue, we've already passed a bill that I ran a couple of years ago called the Teachers Discipline Act that allows the teachers to remove a repetitively unruly student from their classroom and for the administration to take action against that student to find out, first of all, is there some kind of disability here or is it just a decision on this student? But there's no behavioral issue in that private school until the kid gets into the private school and creates a behavioral issue, right? Because I'm sure on the application it's not going to say, are you a behavioral issue? That would be a discriminatory factor right there. But if you go into that private school and you create a situation, everybody knows that my children in private schools, if they create a situation, they can get expelled. They can get kicked out of school.
It's one of the questions that comes up each time we talk about this, but I think it merits for those not listening last week or week before to bring it back up. Homeschoolers don't want this because along with government money comes government strings. Will homeschool tutorials be able to refuse these funds?
As I spoke about last week,
yes, you did.
We have a letter from I should have brought it with me. It's the statewide organization that represents almost all the umbrella schools across the whole state. And they weighed the factors of the risk versus reward. And they sent us a letter saying, as House members, they would prefer that the homeschoolers were written out of the bill because the risk of government interference outweighs the reward.
Yeah, and I don't understand how that money would move.
It's tricky.
It would be a trickier hurdle to jump anyway.
Right.
Not one that you guys couldn't tackle, but what you're hearing from the vast majority of the homeschool organizations would be, we're fine, we're doing okay, the strings are not worth the hurdles, we're good here.
Right, because there's no law I can pass, there's no language I can put into the bill right now that a future General Assembly couldn't change. And so what they're looking at is, okay, right now the General Assembly may reflect that we're going to protect homeschoolers, but in the future, let's say there's some problems with fraud or waste, right? Now the General Assembly will say, well, you know what, we need to protect this taxpayer money.
We're going to get to a couple of your calls, plus Scott Sapicki answers the hard questions about cold beer coming up next on 124. It's 124 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Scott Sapicki tells me before we get into the issue of cold beer, he's got one more thing to say about the issue of education. Right? I mean, you've got a piece of paper. You've got a very important-looking piece of paper over there.
So we did get our test scores for our colleges and universities on graduation rates.
Yay! Great news, huh?
You may need a cold beer after this.
Uh-oh.
So our community college graduation rates on – now, remember, community college is how many years? Supposed to be
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, associate degree, right?
Yes, that's right. Our 2-year graduation rate in our community colleges is 29%.
Ooh.
3 years, 34%. So they're taking an extra year.
Well, that's not much better either.
But TN Promise only plays for 2 years. So the third year is on their dime.
Okay.
Our 4-year colleges and universities, excluding UT, the system.
Why are we excluding UT?
Because they have their own numbers.
Oh, okay.
Austin P, East Tennessee State, Middle Tennessee State, et cetera. 4-year graduation rate is 36%.
Let's go P.
6-year graduation rate is 56%. And then UT, the UT system, 4 years 52% and 6 years 74%. So we got some work to do.
4 year doesn't seem to mean 4 year anymore.
No, it doesn't. It means a lot of school debt.
A lot of cold beer.
Too much cold beer.
Too much cold beer amongst those college
what the bill
students.
does. Hey, and let me say one more thing real quick. I know there's been a lot of a kerfuffle about this whole bill that Frank Nicely had and Bud Hulsey had. Let me tell you something, folks. I work with Bud Hulsey in the General Assembly. He is one of the most conservative members of the General Assembly.
That's Bud, B-U-D.
Bud Hulsey.
You know, when you say that quickly, it sounds like you're saying Butt Hulsey. Anyway, go ahead.
We're going to bring you to an education committee one day.
I like Bud Hulsey.
But to say he's a rhino is just disingenuous.
We've got. I want to do another segment if you can stick around, because I want to talk about the beer thing, and I want to talk about a couple of other pieces that I think are important for the folks to know about in the General Assembly. But for those that don't know the backstory, Hulsey presented a piece
to Frank Nicely, a senator,
but he filed it in the House, right?
Correct.
Bud did, and then he gave it, and this happens where if you are friendly with a senator, you say, hey, will you carry this in the Senate for me? And they say, sure, and they file it.
That's correct.
And what was the bill?
It was a bill about legally determining who could be on a ballot based off of the Constitution, right? It's already described in the Constitution. If you want to run for state house, you want to run for president, you want to run for – there are qualifications you have to have. And one part of the bill that everybody got really upset about what it said, if you're an elector for president and you have any doubt to the validity of the candidate, you cannot cast your vote for that person in the Electoral College. And people misinterpreted that as he's trying to get Trump kicked off the ballot. That is not true.
So I don't know Hulsey. You know him.
I will vouch for him.
You're vouching for him. That wasn't his intention.
No way.
So Nicely
pulled the bill.
But Nicely kind of pointed the fingers at Hulsey.
Well, I mean, it was Bud's bill, I believe. And so the senator carried it, and then he got questioned on it, and then he pulled the bill. The bill's been pulled. Sometimes you have an idea in your head on how something should be worked out in language.
And it doesn't
flow right. And sometimes it gets exposed in committee.
So is Bud currently saying he recognizes that the language, it's a bad bill, and he should have pulled it, and he pulled it?
He's going to pull it, and then he'll rework it and see if we can fix the language to get the true intent.
Yes, Bell.
Frank was getting flamed on Twitter last night.
Yeah.
Just brutally. And he was trying to explain to people, hey, this bill has been pulled. That wasn't the intent. This is not going anywhere. And people were just tearing him apart.
And I've been there. I mean, I've had a bill that just didn't come out right in paper, and you just got to pull it.
Well, but here's what I would say. A part of the problem here, and Frank already doesn't like me, so I'm not here to make further enemies of Frank Nicely. I want to make nice of Frank Nicely. And I don't know Bud that well. And he can defend the original premise of the bill. What I don't like in this process, without knowing anything further about it, is the idea of a senator and I understand you guys are friendly, But if you're a senator and I'm a House of Representatives member, and you know me like you know me, we're friends and we are like-minded, and I hand you a bill and say, hey, carry this for me, wouldn't you kind of read over it?
Yes. Most of the people the senator who carries most of my bills is Joey Hensley.
Okay.
He's my senator. He represents my district. Joey and I serve on education together. We're very tight. We can finish each other's sentences. But let me tell you something. He reads my bills. And I bring him talking points on the bills, so we are saying the same thing on the bill.
So I'll accept Frank's explanation and Bud's explanation. Right. That's all well and good. What I don't accept is this idea that I'm handed a bill that I just file in the Senate without looking over it and making sure that I am really aware of what's going on because my name's on it.
And then in defense of the senators, I think Senator Hensley has 150 bills this year. So,
well, you guys file way too much legislation. Which brings us right back to cold beer, which is coming up next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Efficient Heating and Cooling. I'm telling you, folks, if you need a name that you can trust in the industry, that name is Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. Now, Jeff Eddy does not claim to be, nor is he the biggest heating and air conditioning company in Middle Tennessee. And Jeff Eddy doesn't want to be the biggest heating and air conditioning company in Middle Tennessee. Jeff Eddy is growing by leaps and bounds every single day, every single month, and he grows as much as he wants. Why? Because he wants to be the most effective, the most well-respected voice in heating and air conditioning in this community, and he has established that, friends. I'm here to tell you he is trustworthy. He's not going to try to talk over you. He's going to explain exactly what's going on with your unit. And when I mean talk over you, I'm saying he's not going to talk in a way where you don't really understand what's going on with your heater. He'll explain that to you. He'll tell you how much life you have left. He'll tell you when it's time. And he's a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric and an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. And when it's time, you'll know that it's time because you're told by Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. If your heater's not ready, call Jeff Eddy. And Efficient Heating and Cooling. EfficientHVAC.net. That's EfficientHVAC.net or 615-784-4424. 784-4424 for Efficient Heating and Cooling. Your health care is very important. Friends, do not depend on the government when it comes to your health care. Hey, it's Matt Murphy, and I'm here to talk to you about Pat Davis, your health plan man. That's who he is. Pat Davis is your health plan man. He and his team can assist you in finding the right plan for you. Now, they are like a healthcare concierge. Pat Davis is not locked into one system. He's not locked into one insurance plan. He has all of these plans in front of him and available for him. And I know from personal experience because my wife needed health insurance. We had an opportunity to get her on my insurance here at Cumulus. We looked at the numbers. We crunched the numbers. Pat crunched the numbers for us, and we discovered a plan that is less expensive for us, that is better coverage for us than we currently have. And we switched to your health plan man. You can too. The Freedom of Choice plan gives you an opportunity to switch year-round to those who qualify. These plans have nothing to do with your income, so there's no surprise at tax time, and they're not controlled by the government. They're controlled by you. You shouldn't pay for government mandates when you don't have to. Call your health plan man. 855-4-PLAN-MAN. 855-475-2662 or go to yourhealthplanman.com. That's yourhealthplanman.com. I don't know of another representative that I have developed a better relationship with than Representative Scott Spicky. Is that a fair statement, Belkay?
Yeah, I think so. He's certainly been on the show and made himself more available than anybody else has.
I mean, once a week he comes in. He's available to us. We have our weekly legislative roundup during the General Assembly.
I have a question for Scott, though.
Well, but hold on. Before you get to that question.
What's that song from Toy Story?
What?
About the roundup.
I know what that's Woody's Roundup.
Woody's Roundup.
Yeah.
That needs to be our song. Woody's Roundup.
Okay. Well, we'll figure that out. You want to do your question first? I don't know what your question is, so I don't know.
I'm looking at his bio on the Tennessee General Assembly webpage.
Here we go.
Professional football player for Cincinnati Bengals and Minnesota Vikings.
So he doesn't talk about that.
When was this?
A long time ago.
I mean,
that's pretty cool.
Mac would actually like you if he'd known that.
Stop! I love Scott.
I mean, up until this moment, it's my understanding Mac Morey hates you.
Well, if you're going to read half of it, then read the whole thing, would you? What's the part after that?
Yeah, what's the part? Yeah.
No, that's the end of it. The part before it is professional baseball player for Chicago White Sox and Minnesota Twins.
Oh yeah, you didn't know that? Big deal.
Dual athlete.
Yeah, I played
Mac Morey, big deal.
I played here for the Sounds and the Express.
That's crazy.
Morey. Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders,
Michael Jordan,
Scott Sapicki.
Michael Jordan. Did you see Sapicki threw Jordan in there?
Of course.
Widely considered the greatest athlete of all time. Scott Sapicki.
Yeah.
Now,
I just didn't negotiate a good contract like they did.
So I bring up cold beer, and Sapicki says we need to talk about education. I bring up cold beer, and Sapicki says I need to talk about higher ed. I bring up cold beer, and Sapicki said, "Oh, I need to have one more thing." What was the last one?
What time's the show in?
What was the last one that you brought up? You said folks are asking you about
impact fees.
Impact fees. Can I just get a quick poll of the listening audience? Who wants to talk about cold beer and who wants to talk about impact fees?
Cold beer.
I will defer to my guest.
I'll be quick.
Okay, impact fees. What are we talking about?
We just impact fees are fees that counties can charge developers for growth.
It is actually it's an important.
It's a very big thing.
I get it.
To help pay for schools, help pay for infrastructure. We passed a bill that's in finance right now, behind the budget, waiting for funding. What it does is it sends half of the real estate transfer tax, which is a real estate transaction, back to the counties it comes from to be used for schools, school maintenance, and school debt. It's a big number.
Mm-hmm.
The General Assembly would just have to forego that number for 1 year, just 1 year, and then we would just do with whatever shows up. So we still get to keep half. It's $104 million a year that we get to keep. But what we give $104 million back, that's behind finance. The other bill is adjusting the County Powers Relief Act. Then this bill is being brought by the builders, and I want to say we've worked with them for 7 months. They've been great about this. The bill will be in committee next week. Tim Hicks is carrying it. He is a builder. And they're going to allow the fees to increase if you're a high-growth county to $1.50 on residential per square foot and $1.50 on commercial. So they deserve all the credit. The builders do. They came up with this plan. They think it's fair. And I've already signed on to it with some legislators from Rutherford County. We will be in committee to support this, and hopefully we can adjust this, and then we'll be able to help our counties help themselves.
So, but they're raising the fees?
Yes.
All right. And that's not a tax increase?
That's what the locals want.
But it's up to them?
That's right.
Okay. But it gives them the ability to make those decisions?
Yes.
That's fine. Local,
their parameters.
More local is better. I get that. And the local communities can decide for themselves whether or not it's something that they want to
Unless
have.
you fly a flag.
John is in Greenbrier, wants to talk about school choice and schooling more broadly. Hey, John, how are you?
Hey, good afternoon, gentlemen. How are you doing today?
Doing well.
Good.
Hey, I'm running for school board out here in Greenbrier, and look, there's a lot I could talk about on a state level, right? I'd like to talk about things like, school choice and tracking students, trade familiarization to teacher certification. But somebody who's running for school board, I need to really focus on where I have my agency, right? Right now in Robertson County, right, we rank 122nd out of 143 school districts. Only 22.5% of our seniors are graduating proficient in English and in math, right? That sets up students for lifelong consequences. My question to the representative is, for instance, my opponent, Jeff White, he's been on the board for 16 years. Despite that, test scores have never been lower, but the graduation rate has jumped from 86 to 94%. So what I'm looking at is, what is your plan for chronically failing schools? How can we turn Robertson County, which is literally in the bottom 15 percentile of the schools, and I'm not talking about getting school students into other schools, into Maryville, which is number one, for instance. These kids, if they're not succeeding, they're going to end up in having lifelong consequences, underperforming in college or not getting into college or trade schools, right? And what can I do as a school board member, if the voters see necessary to elect me, to, in my capacity, benefit them and serve in the fullest capacity that I can as a representative?
Wow, you talk about somebody that sounds like a great candidate for school board. If you need me to come over and campaign for you, let me know. You hit it right on the head. We have got to change what we're doing, and the only people that can change that at the local level are the school boards. The school boards have to take ownership of their classrooms, ownership of their systems, and demand the results. Bring discipline back to the classrooms. Let the teachers spend more time teaching. That's what we're going to try to help with. And get these parents engaged in your school system to the point where it's not just the school board affecting the change, it is the community affecting the change, and you will see the results in your schools. I guarantee it.
Hey, thanks a lot. My focus is on getting parents involved again. I want to live stream school board meetings, reduce the barrier for family involvement, and really just strive to get people back as a member of their community again, participating in this. I've been a veteran in the military. I'm a nurse now today.
Uh-oh.
It's just difficult, and I hope things are better in the future.
Keep us updated as to how the campaign is going, John. Sounds like you're
on the right path.
You're on the right path, and I appreciate the call this afternoon. And thank you for your service to your community. That's what we need. We need more people invested in local school board races, more people invested in local county commission races. No offense to the General Assembly, but local is better.
And school choice will trigger that involvement of people taking ownership of their schools again.
Agreed.
Go ahead, give it to me.
All right, so Colbert. So
Now,
and look, Ron Gant, do you know Ron?
I know Ron very well. So back up, give him the story first.
Okay,
Ron
so
Gant.
Representative Ron Gant was injured. I mean, seriously injured.
Almost fatal.
In a traffic accident involving a drunk driver.
Yes.
The drunk driver crossed the middle lane, hit him head on. He had to be life flighted out of the area to a hospital in Memphis and almost lost his life.
It was highway speed, and the car was unrecognizable.
Unbelievable that he survived.
That he survived it.
I mean, and it's through the grace of God that he survived.
Right.
He's now, and so I am loath. I don't know Ron. I would love to have him on the show. I'm not knocking him for this because obviously it's very personal. However, it's a bill entitled the Tennessee Prevention of Drunk Driving Acts that would prevent retail outlets from selling cooled or refrigerated alcoholic beverages. And I just feel like this isn't small government. I understand that we need to crack down on drunk driving as best we can. We need to get every single one of them off the streets and behind bars. Amen to that. Obviously, no one is supportive of that. At the same time, this seems like a little bit of a government overreach to prevent convenience stores from refrigerating alcohol. And I'll just give you an easy example. Sapicki, I don't think you drink.
No.
But let's say you and I are going to a barbecue, and there's going to be some alcohol at the barbecue, and I say, hey, Scott, let's stop by here. Or 10 minutes away. Let's stop by this convenience store. Let's get, I want to contribute to the event. I'm going to buy a 12-pack for the guys. That sort of thing is an easy way to explain why you would want perhaps some refrigeration with regard to beverages. At the same time, I mean, what is your take on this?
Well, first of all, I do not like alcohol bills in the General Assembly. You can check my track record. I vote against almost every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
This is I understand the reaction by Representative Gant, the tragedy.
He almost died.
He almost died. And I understand him wanting to prevent this, going through that type of experience. I think we're running across the line of limited government here and freedom for people to choose what they want to do. I do not like the consumption of alcohol. Obviously, when you're driving, it is wrong. You should not do it. Do not do it, because there'll be consequences not only legally but possibly physically to you and other people. It's a bill that has heartstrings attached to it, which sometimes gets kind of wonky up in the General Assembly. And you're going to have to push through that, look at the language, and see what kind of rights we're infringing upon. And do we really want to do that in the General Assembly? That'll be a very interesting bill to hear the debate on it.
Well, and then there's another companion piece that's associated with the bill that would cap the number of alcoholic beverages that restaurants and bars can serve.
The Broadway bill.
I don't know how anyone could enforce this legislation. And I think even less consideration will probably, no offense to the presenters of the legislation, but even less consideration will be given to this bill, just based on enforcement alone.
Well, it's very complex, and you're putting liability on people and decisions on people that they really have no control over, and there, once again, are we infringing on people's constitutional rights?
Are our DUI laws what they should be?
Extremely stiff and penalizing. Extremely.
And I'm happy for that.
It should be. Here's what my dad told me a long time ago. He said, son, if you follow the law, you don't have to worry about the law.
Sure.
Just follow the law.
Sure.
If you follow the law, we don't have people shooting people. We don't have drunk driving. We don't have other things that are plaguing our society. The problem is, and here's what I'm going to circle back to, and you can see it coming, it's because of education.
No question.
We've got to have a better educated society that creates options economically so you don't resort to the crime.
I tell this story again on air, and I've told it in the past, not because it doesn't please me at all to tell the story, but I consider it almost a blessing now that I got a DUI when I was in college, because I didn't hurt anybody, because there was no permanent damage to my life in terms of my future. And it taught me some ultimate lessons that I carry to this moment in my life. And I am happy in a way. I certainly wasn't happy at the time when I was sitting in jail. But I'm happy now that I got those life lessons. I'm not here to tell you that I lived those life lessons through my 20s and into my 30s like I should have. But I recognize it now that it could have been so much worse than a ride in a police car to a jail.
Live your life with the intent to stay out of the back of a police car with handcuffs on.
Or without the knowledge that you've hurt someone or, God forbid, killed someone.
That's right. And so education, Matt, is the key to solving our societal woes. The founding fathers knew that. They were the most educated people in the country at the time. And they crafted laws based off of education. Get yourself educated. These graduation rates we talked about are unacceptable. We'll be addressing these shortly with our higher ed people.
We look forward to it. Thank you for the better part of an hour, Scott Sapicki. We appreciate you. Next week, there's a bill.
Next week. We'll see.
We're looking forward to it. We're going to replace Sapicki with somebody far more important.
Yes, probably the speaker.
Maybe.
The speaker.
I just say that just to see the look on your face.
I still love you. It doesn't matter.
I love you too, Scott Sapicki. Representative Scott Sapicki on the program with us. We'll be back in just a moment. Another hour to go on the Murphy Show, to include the Biden Department of Justice filing lawsuit against the state of Tennessee. When I tell you why the Biden Department of Justice is filing a lawsuit against the state of Tennessee, you're going to say, Matt, I don't believe you. You're going to look at your radio and say, Matt, you're crazy. I'm not crazy. This is real. We'll tell you what it is in a moment on Super Talk. All right, friends, it's Matt Murphy, and I want to tell you about Safe House. You know, Nashville Safe House has been providing quality safes, just so many of them in the showroom for folks for many, many years. Over 30 years now, Mark and his team at Nashville Safe House have been providing these safes. And I talk a lot about gun safes, and rightly so. A lot of gun owners want to make sure that their guns are safe and secure to protect their family, their friends, their shooting guns or whatnot, their sport guns or whatnot. But also jewelry safes. They've got those. Corporate safes. They've got those. If you want to keep your important paperwork safe from fire primarily and theft secondarily, they have those as well. They have biometric safes to make sure that you're safe and secure in your home from invasion without putting your child at risk. Those biometric safes are very popular, especially with families who believe in the Second Amendment, who also have young children about the house. So for anyone and everyone listening, if you've considered a safe before you buy from the fly-by-nights, before you let some crackhead, I said it, some crackhead deliver your safe, you need to call Mark and his team at Nashville Safe House. NashvilleSafeHouse.com, NashvilleSafeHouse.com, or stop by 4th Avenue South, right across the street from City Cemetery. Tell them I sent you to Nashville Safe House. All right, a couple of things to highlight. Breaking news items. It is the Matt Murphy Show, by the way, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thanks to our guest, Brink Fiddler was in the first hour, the Libertarian Lunchtime Hour, breaking down the Kansas City shooting from yesterday afternoon. And, of course, Scott Sapicki for the better part of this hour. Activity in the Atlanta courtroom. I mentioned that Nathan Wade was on the stand. He is the specially appointed assistant district attorney that the special prosecutor in the case against Donald Trump, Fani Willis, appointed, not telling the court at the time that she did so and paying him untold amounts of money that she would be that she was having an affair with him. Well, there is testimony happening right now in an Atlanta courtroom regarding that affair. And Nathan Wade has been compelled to testify. Fani Willis, the district attorney in Fulton County, has been refusing to testify until moments ago when she walked into the courtroom while Nathan Wade was testifying, and prosecutors were arguing that she refused to comply with a subpoena because she said she's not testifying. She walked into a courtroom and said, I am here. I'm ready to go. Let's make this happen. The district attorney in Fulton County just said, let's go. And so they said, okay, get on the stand. And they got her on the stand, and then she asked for paperwork, and they took a recess. So we're about to find out. But she's expected to testify moments from now. Fani Willis, the district attorney of Fulton County, testifying in the Wade affair. We'll cover it for you live on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Stand by.
Two o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories right now. 67 degrees, a beautiful day in Nashville. Got a weather forecast coming up in 2 minutes. Looking at some traffic right now. Both lanes of I-24 East. This is at mile marker 105. Currently closed. That's due to a multi-vehicle crash. The crash was just before noon, so it's been a couple of hours. We may be getting that reopened here soon, but for now, try and find a alternative route. We got some new details about the mass shooting in Kansas City at the end of the Chiefs' victory rally on Wednesday. A radio DJ was killed. Nearly 24 other people were injured. Here's Alex Stone.
Kansas City police say they have now determined it was not an orchestrated attack on the Chiefs' victory rally, but several people got into an argument and then shots were fired. Innocent bystanders were hit. 8 who were shot went to University Health Kansas City. Trauma surgeon Dr. Dustin Neal on the first victim to arrive.
Got him straight up to the operating room and were able to stabilize him. He has improved overnight despite his life-threatening injuries.
And of the 8 that were wounded by gunshots, 5 of those were dismissed from the emergency department yesterday evening. 3 individuals remain in the hospital, 1 in stable condition. The other 2 admitted in critical condition. They remain in the ICU, but both are improving. Now, right now here in East Tennessee, a Meigs County Sheriff's Office deputy, Robert R.J. Leonard, still missing after arresting a woman last night. Right now, it's believed that Leonard took a woman into custody around 6 p.m. before crashing his car near the Blythe Ferry boat ramp. His car was found in the water, but his body was not inside of the vehicle. The last word dispatch says that they heard from the deputy was water. The driver's side window was found open. Leonard had joined the Meigs County Sheriff's Office in December. He was from New York. And inside a courtroom in Georgia, attorney Nathan Wade has taken the stand during a misconduct hearing against Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis to answer questions on their alleged affair leading up to the indictment of the former president on election fraud charges. Olivia Rubin has more on what the former president and his co-defendants hope to accomplish during today's proceedings.
What Trump and his co-defendants are seeking is for her and her entire office to be removed from prosecuting the case and the indictment dismissed entirely. Now, I've spoken to a number of experts none of them whom believe that the indictment is going to be dismissed over this, but the judge has indicated there are concerns about the relationship and the allegations that she potentially financially benefited, and she denies any allegations of misconduct and denies that she has a conflict of interest.
That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Back pain, neck pain, knee pain, hip pain, elbow pain, anywhere pain, anywhere pain, anywhere pain. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief. I want to focus on that chronic pain because a lot of you have been living with it for a long time. I was just like you. I lived with my lower back pain, and I still have flare-ups from time to time, but thank you to Dr. Wendy, Dr. D, Dr. V, and the rest of the crew at the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief. I don't have to worry about the constant nagging pain that existed in my lower back for the better part of 5 years. That's gone now. Thank you to the Dr. Gill Center. I am one personal testimony out of thousands of personal testimonies regarding the Dr. Gill Center and how they do their jobs. They prevent the need from popping pills, they prevent the need for needles, and they prevent the consideration for surgery. And that's what it's all about, getting you back to a pain-free life without the need for any of those things. Let's get that process started. If you've not already, go ahead and make the call and make the appointment for the Dr. Gill Center. 615-882-4838. 882-4838, the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief in Franklin. Hey, Bell.
Hey, Matthew.
What? Something just happened behind you that's making me laugh.
What are you doing, Mac?
No, I wasn't doing anything.
He's putting his headphones on because I was about to say,
I knew
hey,
you were
Bell,
going to say something.
Later,
dang it.
Later on this hour, we're going to play a game called Tell Me You're a Millennial Without Telling Me You're a Millennial.
Jerk.
What did you do? What did you do?
He bought some new pants. That's all. That's all he did.
Let me see.
He bought some new pants.
Give me a second.
All right. Oh, here we go.
They're actually long pants.
They're long
yeah,
pants.
they're not short breeches. They're long pants.
Khakis.
That's right. They look
Where's
good.
the Chiefs logo on them?
Yeah, there's no Chiefs logo. Although,
classy.
what are you doing with a hand? What are you?
Yeah.
I heard something about this. What are you? By the way, let me get the pleasantries. Matt Murphy Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Is this live? We might have to suspend this. So Fannie Willis.
Yeah.
So we'll get back to Mac Morey's shame in just a moment. Fannie Willis is about to testify. Oh, she just winked at somebody. So Fannie Willis is the district attorney in Fulton County that has been charged with the opportunity and obligation. She's bringing charges against Donald Trump. She's in charge of this case against Donald Trump in Fulton County, Georgia. Well, she's been accused of having an affair with someone that she hired to be her special assistant prosecutor and is paying untold hundreds of millions of dollars in the process. And the accusation is that she is in part benefiting from the money that she's paying him. It's a circular benefit because they're having this affair and then they're going on trips and they're going on all this. And so she has rejected a subpoena for herself to testify in court. Nathan Wade, the assistant special prosecutor, whatever his title might be, Nathan Wade has testified throughout the course of the morning regarding his affair with Fannie Willis and the resulting payments that were being made to him and the trips that they took, etc. Well, Fannie Willis has declined the offer and the demand that she testify in this case up until about, 8 minutes ago? So roughly 8 minutes ago, well, I guess it's been 12 or so minutes ago now. Let's say 15. About 15 minutes ago, while Nathan Wade is finishing up his testimony, a woman that had refused her subpoena to come and testify walked into the courtroom in her bright pink dress and said, oh, y'all want Fannie to testify? Well, Fannie is right here. Let's get it on. Imagine, if you will. Remember when Hunter Biden did this dog and pony show where he went up to the Capitol and everyone was talking about his testimony, and he stood outside and said, well, blah, 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 I'm right here. I'll testify in public open court right here. Derp, derp, derp. That's what he said.
Is that from the official transcript?
That was a direct quote that he said, I'll testify in public. Derp, 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 derp. I'm not going behind closed doors. Well, Fannie Willis just walked into court and said, I'll testify. Are they on live audio? Do I have natty audio from the our source there on the television? I want to know if I.
You did not. I read this motion, skimmed it more so, and
Fannie Willis, Atlanta, Georgia,
I've
live right
said
now.
some choice things to him about some of the lies they were told.
Okay.
And then printed in the media.
District Attorney, Fulton County.
There used to be in a day and time where you had 60 Minutes and people did stories and they verified information, and you had this great reporting. But it seems today that a lawyer writes a lie and then it's printed for all of the world to see.
Well, I just want to make sure that you answer the question I asked, though. So my question was...
Overruled, Mr. Vlade.
I told you what happened. I read the motion. I am sure I told him what my opinion of it is.
Okay.
And past that, we had no substantive conversation.
You did not. Okay.
Is there something you didn't understand?
No, I just wanted to make sure that you did not have a meeting with him in the conference room to discuss the motion.
Next question.
Wow.
So
Little attitude.
In the conference room of my office within this week, you produced some financial document. That financial document was given to me, something, and I'm not even sure who was given it to him by me or Mr. Abadi gave it to me. And I think he showed me a document in our conference room. But as far as a substantive conversation, I don't believe I've had any conversation with him that is substantive related to this.
Okay.
I have had conversations with him since you filed the motion, but they wouldn't be substantive to this. He sent me very nice sermons that have been done. And so we've had conversations about, did you listen to that sermon? You know, things of that nature. And I would say they were in relationship to this because I think he did it to be kind.
Okay. Let's start back in 2019.
All right.
So,
2019.
you and Mr. Wade met in October 2019 at a conference?
That is correct. And I think in one of your motions you tried to implicate I slept with him at that conference, which I find to be extremely offensive. I stayed at that conference. Mr. Wade was my teacher. I did not meet him when he taught the class. I was standing outside talking to Lisa Reeves, who is a judge.
See, if
Me
I'm
and her were just
if I'm the individual questioning her, I deeply apologize. When did you have sex with him?
Some brief conversation. She introduces us.
If not at that conference, then when?
We kind of thought that when you asked the question, you can answer the question, not a speech, so I object to the speech.
I agree.
I'm able to explain my answers.
I believe she's able to explain her answers.
And that's
Ms. Merchant, that's okay. I can handle it. Ms. Willis, I'll ask you just listen to the answer, or excuse me, the question, and keep the answers confined to the question as best you can. I think you'll have more than enough ample opportunity on when the state was able to
It's highly offensive when someone lies on you, and it's highly offensive when they try to implicate that you slept with somebody the first day you met with them, and I take exception to it.
All right. Well, Ms. Willis, she'll have
She's mad because someone's implying she slept with someone who wasn't her husband on the day that she met him, although she's admitted that she slept with him after that.
We did. The meeting, he, as I stated, he taught the class. I did not actually meet him when he taught the class. I walked out of the class, and I'm not sure if it was that exact class or we had went to lunch, but we were standing in the vestibule, like outside of the class. Me and Judge Reeves were having a conversation. She had worked at a law firm I worked at back in 1996.
We're getting way afar. I mean, I don't mind her explaining her answers, but I literally just asked if they met at that conference.
She's explaining how she met Mr. Wade, which was exactly the question asked by Ms. Merchant. These answers are more than appropriate.
Ms. Merchant, if you want more concise answers, perhaps you could lead the witness.
I will. Thank you, Judge. Isn't it true that you met Mr. Wade October 2019 at a judge's conference?
We haven't gotten to the point where Ms. Willis should be treated hostile in this situation.
I think we have.
I very much want to be here, so I'm not a hostile witness. I very much want to be
Not
here.
so much that you're hostile, Ms. Willis, it'd be an adverse witness. Your interests are opposed to Ms. Merchant's.
Ms. Merchant's interests are...
I'm not hostile. I want to be here.
Contrary
I'm not
to
hostile.
Your Honor, not to mine.
All right.
It's like how I conduct my radio show.
We can keep things moving. Ms. Merchant.
I'm not hostile. I want to be here.
So we've confirmed when you met. After that, isn't it true?
No, I need to explain this, and I think I get to
Say that
explain
again,
my
I'll slap
answers.
you.
When I met him, Judge Reeves introduced us. He handed me his business card. I'm unsure if I handed him my business card, but we exchanged information. He said, if you ever need any help, give me a call.
She's very
and
combative.
He walked to the parking lot.
So after that, you started dating shortly thereafter, correct?
A lie. That's one of your lies.
Okay. Do you know Robin Yurdy?
I know her as Robin Bryant. I knew her So Robin did not go to my college. She went to the college of, I went to Howard University. She went to Morgan State. I met her through
This is fascinating to me. This testimony is cracking me up.
A bit, not much,
She's
because she was in Baltimore.
combative and angry.
DC, but we hung out a bit. After college, I lost contact with her.
How dare you suggest I'm a hussy? I just had an affair.
Maybe 7 or 8 years ago, a chance meeting here in Atlanta, but we did not have a consistent relationship from when I left college and came to Emory Law School here in Atlanta. But 8 to 10 years ago, just by happenstance, I ran into her.
So
she was in Atlanta.
You have been friends with Robin for 30-something years.
Did you hear my answer, madam?
Yes, and I'm asking if you've been friends with her for 30-something years.
I've known her for 30-something years. We certainly hung out and partied together in college. She was from the D.C. area. She would come home, we partied together. Wasn't close, but she was certainly in the girlfriends that partied together. And then, like I said, I ran into her about 10 years ago in Atlanta, Georgia.
So
but we didn't talk throughout that time period. I didn't see her. I didn't even know where she was. When I ran into her, I was surprised she was in Atlanta. And so, yes, I have known her probably since 1990, 1991, but we have not maintained a consistent relationship that whole time.
For the last 10 years or 5, whatever you'd like to classify it as, have you been friends with her?
I have not spoken to Robin in over a year. I certainly do not consider her a friend now. I think that she, there's a saying, no good deed goes unpunished, and I think that she betrayed our friendship.
So let's narrow it down, the timeline now. So my questions are going to be from the time period of 2019 until she no longer was employed for you, the last time you all talked. So all of my next questions are just focused on that time frame, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Up until she left your office.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, just for clarity's sake, this
2019,
specifically doesn't have anything to do with Trump,
yes, we
right?
knew each other in 2019.
During 2020, you all were friends, correct?
No. It has to do with
during
the prosecutor in the Trump
correct?
case misappropriating money to pay her lover to act as a fellow assistant
You did
prosecutor.
not move into her apartment?
I
or her
did, but
condo?
that's not the way you characterize it is wrong.
I asked if you could take over her lease.
I did not ask if I could take over her lease.
Did you move into her apartment?
I moved into her condo in April of 21. The circumstances around that were that Robin met her husband. They wanted to move into another separate place.
All right, we're going to continue monitoring this. This is it's very salacious and very interesting, and it all surrounds the fact that Fani Willis has had an affair with an individual that she subsequently hired to be a part of the prosecution team. He testified earlier today. Nathan Wade testified to their relationship. The only reason that I believe DA Fani Willis is sitting before the court testifying today is that she does not feel like Nathan Wade's testimony went very well this morning. If Nathan Wade's testimony had gone well this morning, Fani Willis would not be on the stand this afternoon. Several of you are already begging to have it put back on the radio. Yes, the notorious DJT is winning. And this woman, I don't know Fani Willis except what I know about her in Fulton County regarding the Trump case. But I will say that she has the tone and she has the answers of someone who wants to present herself as the smartest person in the room and is shocked and disgusted to discover that there's anyone that would question her actions. I'll tell you what, based on popular demand, yank it back up there for a minute or two, Belle, as Fani Willis is sitting at the stand.
I can't remember. It was $1,400, $1,500. I can't remember what it was, and it would vary.
She's talking about
I don't understand to this day.
Spending money
like I said,
on
I never
rent
questioned her.
in Atlanta.
When did you move out?
This is apparently the apartment where she had the affair.
When did you
I
move out?
abruptly moved out in February, either late January or early February of 22.
Of 22.
Yes,
February 2022, is that what you said? February of 22. I believe it is January, but
I paid her half the rent of February of 22 is what I remember. And because I was offering to pay the whole rent, even though I didn't live there, I didn't think it was right. And I ended up just paying her half the rent.
So that's after you moved out. You said you paid her half of that. Okay. And the time that you said you had to move out of your house because you were scared, did your dad stay there at your house?
My father was concerned. Yes, we were both concerned.
Okay. But he remained there.
My father was 80 years old. He would have been 79. He was scared to death of COVID.
It's not answering the question.
Go back to when this was. My father's an older man. I wanted him to move out. We had some discussions about him moving out, and what he decided was the risk of COVID was more dangerous than the risk of the people that were threatening. Typical man, more worried about his daughter and his grandchildren than his own safety. You'll get to meet him, and you'll understand he doesn't scare too easily.
So his grandkids were living at the house as well at that time?
Well, I don't know how old your children are, but when you have adult children, they leave and they come back. They leave and they come back. So there have been periods of time that they're there, they come, they do whatever they want to do. Children do what children do. As long as their mother has a house, they'll come to it. Unfortunately, now the threats because of this case have gotten so extreme. I just pay a mortgage and no one lives there.
And that's what I was going to ask you. So when you moved out in, I think you said April 2021, you left your dad and your two kids at the house?
My dad and my two kids were not at the house.
They were not? Okay, so they didn't still live at your house?
My youngest daughter certainly did not live there. Okay. My oldest daughter would come back and forth. I can't say month for month when she was there or when she was not there. I know that she has been there post me moving out. At this time, no one is at my house.
Okay. So at some point after you moved out for the safety reasons, at least one of your children did come back.
Ms. Merchant, can we get to either the relationship or the financial benefit?
Yes. Let's see. We were back at 2021. So you were still friends with Miss Yeardy then. Were you also friends with Mr. Bradley?
I've never been friends with Mr. Bradley.
You've never been friends with Mr. Bradley?
No, I don't consider us to be friends. I don't dislike Mr. Bradley, but I don't consider us to be friends.
Is he someone that you would have in your phone and you would message with?
I might have text messaged him.
Okay. Would you text message him and Mr. Wade on the same conversations?
I don't recall doing that, but if it happened, it wouldn't surprise me.
Okay, so that wouldn't surprise you, the three of you. Okay. How frequently would you think that the three of you would have texted?
Not very. I wouldn't think very often, but you're asking me to recall. I don't even know what time period you're asking
I don't
me to
recall.
But
classic.
I'm not going to speak to that.
We'll come back to this. Fannie Willis has unexpectedly chosen to testify in the case. I don't know that it would be classified as a case against her. It is a hearing regarding untoward and unprofessional behavior between herself and Nathan Wade, and it is to determine whether or not she misappropriated money out of the Georgia prosecutor's office, out of the DA's office, essentially paying her lover to act as an assistant special prosecutor. We'll continue on that case in just a moment. It's 2:23. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The Mill Creek View, Tennessee podcast is excellent. I know because I was on it yesterday, and I know that yesterday's episode was tip-top. I know everything that Steve Abramowitz, in all seriousness. Steve does a great job out of Franklin. The Mill Creek View, Tennessee podcast has quickly become one of the number one podcasts on politics in this state for good reason. Steve does great research. He's a great interviewer. He's a fabulous guy, and he understands conservatism, and he understands how states can turn their back on conservatism because he's been there. He's done that. He loves to say, "Don't California my Tennessee," and he knows what he's talking about. He knows arts and authors, cultural touchstones, entertainment figures, sports figures, and he interviews them all on the Mill Creek View, Tennessee podcast, and he specializes in politics. He's frequently the number one show in politics on Podomatic, and you can even find yours truly with Murphy's Law once a month on the Big Podcast. Find it on Deezer, iTunes, iHeart, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcast. Steve is CEO and editor-in-chief of the Mill Creek View newspaper, and you can find them at mcview.us. That's also where the podcast is, mcview.us. It's the Mill Creek View, Tennessee podcast.
White House National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby following up on that quote-unquote national security threat, and Mayor Freddie O'Connell of Nashville trying to improve transportation. 2:30, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Little referendum coming up from Freddie O'Connell for the citizens of Nashville and Davidson County, not to get in front of Abercrombie's newscast. I mean McMurray's newscast there. My apologies. I misspoke, and that's on me. We were talking about, real quick before we go back to Fannie, because she's talking about the cruise she took in 2022 with the special prosecutor now getting down and dirty. She says, look, not to be rude to you, but I can't remember all these things. If you have something to refresh my recollection, I'm happy to look at that. Anyway, real quick, so what's the deal? So you in hand, most of you know that while Matt Morey has his news hat on for most of the afternoon, he is the producer of the Chris Hand Show from 9 until noon on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So what's the deal? You'll be wearing Chiefs gear for the rest of your life? What?
One piece of Chiefs clothing every day to see how long it can go. It doesn't even have to be a shirt. It could be pants, could be a pair of socks, could be a hat. Can't do any repeats. Can't buy any new articles of clothing.
Here's my question.
To see how much you have.
Yeah, see how long I can keep it going.
Here's my question. Why is he allowed to wear that hate speech on Super Talk TV when they're paying no advertising fee?
What, the Kansas City garbage?
Yeah.
All of that? I don't know.
Shouldn't there be a advertising charge for that?
Yes.
If not from them, then from him.
Go Chiefs.
It's my understanding that currently Mac Morey is attempting to contact Travis Kelce to see if we can get some sort of payment, or at very least if Kelce would sponsor some form of Pfizer or, jab-based advertising.
Two things at once. Dumb.
So, what's the upshot on how long you think you can go? I mean, surely you have an idea about this. Are we saying or?
Well, we had some super textures text in. Like, we were getting a lot of like around 3 weeks, 21, 22 days. Had one guy say 33 days. So I don't know. I think probably a month. Because if we're counting not just shirts, we're counting jackets, we're counting hats, socks. I got a bunch of stuff. So
if you stretch it out, I think you could go a month.
I think I can go a month.
Well,
so we're on day 3. Today.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm excited. Man.
Do you still have your Kansas City underoos?
Yeah, I got some underoos. I got some jammies.
I think I heard this part that they excluded underpants.
Yeah,
because nobody wants to check that.
We'll honor code it. Yeah.
What do you mean honor code it?
We'll honor code
so
it.
you just get to show up with no Chiefs gear and say, I've got Chiefs underwear on today? Well, no, I'll check. No, you have no honor. Come on, man.
HR.
No, there's got to be a safety check.
No, actually, that's the only article of clothing that I don't have in KC, so we don't even have to worry about it. No underoos. That's the only thing I don't have.
There you go, listening audience. Get some Kansas City Chief underpants for Cougar Chow, a.k.a. Mac Maury.
I'm a briefs guy.
A.k.a.
Jason's comment.
Abercrombie and Fitch.
Jason said, Fanny is almost as combative as this radio guy I listened to.
That's true.
Oh, man.
That wasn't the latest comment that he made, but I would encourage you not to read the latest comment that he made.
Yeah, that one's not going to do. I wouldn't be doing myself any favors.
Jason, I don't think that's true either. I don't think that's true for a second. I don't believe that would happen.
You know what? I'm not going to say it would, but I wouldn't doubt the possibility existing.
Is there a cash transaction involved? If there's a cash transaction involved.
No. It's just idol worship.
Jason, I just read Jason's text.
Jason is suggesting that Mac would let Travis Kelce give him the jab, so to speak. It's 31 after the hour. Hey, it's time for the news on Super Talk 99.7 WT.
It's 2:31. I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 68 degrees, mostly sunny. Another gorgeous day in Nashville. Expecting a lot of the same tomorrow until we get some showers later on Friday night. But still, for the most part, highs in the 50s and 60s. Weather forecast 2 minutes away. During the White House briefing today, White House National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby addressing concerns voiced by House Intelligence Committee Chairman Mike Turner on what he called a major national security threat of Russia nuclear weapons in space. Following Turner's comments, other lawmakers who had seen the intelligence described it as significant and concerning, but not a cause for panic. Here's Kirby today.
While I am limited by how much I can share about the specific nature of the threat, I can confirm that it is related to an anti-satellite capability that Russia is developing.
Kirby continued, saying that they're taking the matter very seriously. They're trying to figure out next steps. He also spoke to how this all became public. Quote, if there's a presumption here that somehow the administration gave a green light for this information to get public yesterday, that is false. That is not true. That did not happen. Right now in Nashville, Mayor Freddie O'Connell says he will seek a referendum on the November ballot to get funding for transportation improvements, including buses running 24/7.
Because we know that Nashvillians don't just work 9 to 5. It'll let us invest in more community transit centers that connect to each other, so people thinking about using the bus don't have to go downtown just to get to some other part of the city.
In addition, Mayor O'Connell said the city will not seek a property tax rate increase for the fiscal year of 2025. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for the world-famous clock store. So Valentine's Day has come and gone, but there are still Valentine's gift opportunities for you at the world-famous clock store, and I want to tell you about a few of those. You know, February is the month for, well, lovers, and I can think of no better love item to present your loved one in your life than a couple shooting session in a private room with a personal instructor, and you can still get the very special deal in as much as they're doing it all February long. Let's talk about it. Couples shoot for the price of one at shoot270.com during the month of February. Again, we're talking about a private room, a personal instructor, just you and your significant other. Book for two and pay for one. That's what the mantra is at shoot270.com this month only. The best of the shooting rooms is at shoot270.com. Friends, they have completely turned the way that we train on its head because you get a personal instructor, you get an entire room. They can set those rooms up in a variety of ways to present a variety of scenarios that you simply can't accomplish in a shooting lane in a room full of people. Shoot270.com to find out more, or go to glockstore.com, or better yet, stop by. What are you waiting for? Glockstore.com or on Airlane Drive off of Elm Hill Pike. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the one and only world-famous Glock Store. All right, friends, so let's talk about your health when it comes to your hair care, because this can apply to those of you losing your hair and you want to get some of that hair gain back, and I want to tell you how to do it. It's PAI Medical. Hey, folks, it's Matt Murphy for PAI and the We Grow Hair folks. If you want to look and feel better about yourself, 2024 can be the year that you do that by growing your hair back. We Grow Hair is the only company in the state of Tennessee to have the PAI multi-unit hair grafting procedure. It's a trademark procedure that gives you more hair in one sitting than any other procedure in Middle Tennessee today. That's what it's all about, saving you time, saving you money, and nobody else has it. Now, if you're just starting to lose, or if you feel like there's thinning going on, you need to go ahead and get in front of this with a private consultation. that private consultation between you and one of the fine folks over at PAI Medical in Brentwood. Amazing results from these guys. I will be going next week because I'm going to start my preventative process. I got a full head of hair, but I want to make sure that it stays that way with PAI Medical, and they have the procedures to help me along. 615-376-6010. Tell them I sent you. 615-376-6010. For the good people of We Grow Hair, WeGrowHair.com. Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Fannie Willis testifying in Atlanta, Georgia. She is the Fulton County District Attorney accused of allowing a lover of hers to act as a special prosecutor or an assistant to the special prosecutor and paying large amounts of money as a result. The accusation has been that she has ultimately benefited from the same, in as much as this individual, Nathan Wade, has paid for numerous trips involving Fannie Willis as they go about the country on wine excursions and whatnot. They were just talking about that during the break. We'll be back to that in just a moment. I made a promise that I would get to this, and I want to fulfill said promise. The Joe Biden Department of Justice has filed a lawsuit against the state of Tennessee. You cannot make this up. The Justice Department, Joe Biden's Justice Department, is suing the state of Tennessee for enforcing a state law that makes it a violation of the law for prostitutes to knowingly spread HIV. Or anyone, really. The Justice Department filed lawsuit today against the state of Tennessee and the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. According to the Biden administration and their Department of Justice, the state of Tennessee is in violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. The department previously notified Tennessee and TBI that they were in violation of ADA by enforcing the state's aggravated prostitution statute against people living with HIV. That letter of finding detailed the minimum remedial measures necessary to address what is considered by the Department of Justice to be discriminatory. According to Assistant Attorney General Kirsten Clark of the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division, the enforcement of state criminal law that treat people differently based on HIV status alone and that are not based on actual risks of harm discriminate against people living with HIV. People living with HIV should not be subjected to a different system of justice based on outdated science and misguided assumptions. This lawsuit reflects the Justice Department's commitment to ensuring that people living with HIV are not targeted because of their disability. Yes, Belle, I saw what you just did there, and I did it too. Disability? What?
Polio is a disability. This is not a disability. This is a infection.
Right. Disability?
This really shouldn't be that shocking, though, because if you remember, a couple years ago, California actually removed the statute that made it illegal to spread HIV knowingly. So this is right out of the liberal playbook.
So let me get this straight. 2-3 years ago, the Biden administration and the Biden Justice Department was saying that it is perfectly permissible to treat people differently based on their refusal to get the jab. If you refuse to get the COVID-19 shot, they could kick you out of the military. If you refused to take medicine that the government insisted that you take, that you did not believe along with your doctor, that this was the right medical course of action for you, that they could punish you by firing you from your federal post, your federal position. These same people are now saying that it should be legal for someone who knows that they have HIV/AIDS to give you HIV/AIDS through prostitution, and there's nothing that the state of Tennessee can do about it.
There you go. You got it. First try.
I think I got it. I think I figured it out. Wow. Just wow. unbelievable. Similarly unbelievable. And yes, 2953 says, is this revenge for Tennessee backing Texas? I wouldn't put anything past the Biden administration. I wouldn't put anything past this two-tiered system of a Department of Justice that thinks that rules are for thee but not for me. Joe Biden can store as many classified documents in his basement. He can store as many in his garage. He can stuff them in the trunk of his Corvette. He can stuff them in his library, in his den. He can stuff them where the sun don't shine, and that's just fine because he's a doddering old fool that doesn't know his butt from a hole in the ground. But Donald Trump does it, and we're going to raid Mar-a-Lago. Similarly, it's perfectly permissible for the government of the United States of America to discriminate against you or me or anybody for choosing not to take medicine that we do not believe is in our best interest. Yet they can protect those who knowingly spread HIV/AIDS. Makes a lot of sense. 3750 asks a very important question. So Red Cross cannot treat these people differently because they want to give blood because of their disability? I guess not. Do you currently have HIV/AIDS? That's a question I'm not going to answer because you're trying to treat me differently based on my disability. The Americans with Disabilities Act protects me. Is there not a point where we worry about the innocent victims? Tell me how the standard would change if we were talking about someone who was blind wanting to drive a car. Seriously. You go to the Department of Motor Vehicles, you sign up for a license. They tell you to take the eye test. You say, I can't take the eye test, I'm blind. They say, well, if you're blind, you can't get a driver's license to drive a vehicle. How dare you discriminate against me because I'm blind, because of my disability? I demand to be treated the same as everyone else.
When I was in high school, I had a friend of mine, she had epilepsy, and she couldn't get a driver's license because she had epilepsy. And I would let her drive my mother's car all the time just so she had the chance. But she literally they would not give her a driver's license for fear of her having a seizure while she was driving and causing an accident. So now that's illegal, I assume.
Well, I would assume so. Americans with Disabilities Act. In the meantime, Fannie Willis continues to testify before a court. She has made clear between the time that we were carrying the testimony and now that she is not on trial and that the lawyer in the case is being very rude to her. She claims that her romantic relationship with Nathan Wade ended in the summer of 2023. I assume this was around the time that they got caught having a romantic relationship while she was paying him hundreds of thousands of dollars to act as an assistant DA and special prosecutor in the case against Donald J. Trump. She's currently just give me a little more of this deliciousness, maybe one more minute before we have to go. Here's Fannie Willis is currently on trial.
So I'm trying to use those terms.
So there's been more. See, what you don't understand is because of this case, I got to move. And so I
Ms.
need
Merchant, if you could ask a more precise question.
Yes, please, give me the time period.
Mr. Wade visited you at the place you laid your head.
When?
Has he ever visited you at the place you laid your head?
So let's be clear, because you lied in this. Let me tell you which one you lied in. Right here. I think you lied right here. No. This is the truth, Judge. And it is a lie. It is a lie.
Ms. Willis? Mr. Sena, thank you. We're going to take 5 minutes.
All right, we're going to take 5 minutes. So we're going to take 5 minutes, and Fannie Willis is going to take 5 minutes. It is a lie, she said. So we'll figure out what the heck she's talking about there. On the stand, discussing her clandestine affair with Nathan Wade as he was acting as her assistant and getting paid large amounts of money to assist her in her prosecution of Donald Trump. It is a courtroom drama like we have not seen in some time. If you just joined us, Fannie Willis was not expected to testify. She had defied a subpoena. And as Nathan Wade was wrapping up his testimony, she waltzes into court and said, "Here I am, and I'm ready to go. Y'all ready to go?" And the individuals who are in charge of the case said, yeah, we're ready to go, and I'm ready to go. And so sat down, she did. Man, oh, man. We'll talk with Brian Wilson about all this and so much more coming up in just a moment at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and you. It's 56 minutes after the hour. Bell K's behind the glass, making sure that everything that comes out of our speaker sounds as good as possible. He has prematurely hit the button. I can hear it in the background. Oh. Well, I guess it's not a premature button hit if we're already welcoming Mr. Wilson to the show. By the way, Bell, have you looked at my Twitter feed lately? Have you seen my Twitter feed lately?
Not since this morning.
It is as pretty as it's ever been with the latest photo that I just put up on my Twitter account at Matt Murphy Show.
Where did you get that picture?
I have my sources. So here's the story. And I was quickly trying to find the maiden name, and I don't have it, but she says that you guys were not friends. You just knew one another in high school. Who's this? All right, so this is my wife's uncle, who lives in Midland now.
Yeah.
His wife, Cindy, went to high school with you.
Yes, and we went to Star Wars together.
I don't know if that's true or not.
That is true. That's the one and only time we ever went out.
Well, she said we were telling her about all the folks here. She was over during the holidays, and we were telling her all about the folks at Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and I said Brian Wilson, and there's a group of people in the room, right? And I said, oh, well, there's Dan Mandis and me and Johnny B, and there's Brian Wilson, and what? Huh? What Brian Wilson? The Brian Wilson that was on Fox News? And I said, well, yeah, that Brian Wilson. He's now on the radio with us, and I went to high school with him. And she sent us your high school photo. So if you guys want to see a high school photo of a young, wet behind the ears Brian Wilson,
that's a three-bank shot right there. I'll tell you.
I don't know how much you want to get into this or not, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Happy birthday, man!
Well, thank you so much. I don't mind celebrating my birthday.
All right.
It is the. Let's see, I figured this out. The 38th anniversary of my 30th birthday.
Well, what are you doing for your birthday?
Working. Just head down, and nose to the grindstone, shoulder to the wheel. It's just another day.
Yeah, well,
it's sort of interesting to think about how many times I've been around the sun. When I like to think of it in those terms. Another trip around the sun. How many more will you have? That's the question.
I hope you're having as good a birthday as Fannie Willis is having a day on the stand.
Well, she's tearing them up, isn't she? She's defiant, is what I would say. We'll get into that. We'll also get into there's talk about a big transportation referendum coming for Nashville. We'll get into that and ask you what you would like to see happen with that. You want more buses? Because that seems like what we're talking about here. It's all straight ahead on the drive.
We love it, and y'all wish Brian Wilson a happy birthday in a manner of your choosing, because it is his birthday show. Easy for me to say. Brian Wilson coming up right after McMorray's Newscast, and McMorray's Newscast is coming up right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We'll be back for a Friday edition tomorrow at high noon. Until then, have a great day, folks. So long.